morning, YouTube. Tyre Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. So I was gonna do this video last night, but I ended up starting to get a little bit sick later into the evening. Thankfully, I've shaken it off, so we're good to go here, and we're gonna go ahead and get into this before we start the workday on my end. Before I get into it, of course, make sure you're smashing that like button, decimating that subscribe button, and obliterating the share button. Also, if you're new here, definitely make sure that if you subscribe, you get that bell on. Helps me out, and also it makes sure that this video gets out to the right people, because there's plenty to talk about today as far as the tropics are concerned. For the most part around the US, nothing is expected to really affect land. Most that we may see out of this, if anything develops, would be more so rip currents. Outside of that, and maybe some increased surf, there's no immediate threats to land in the near term, or really the long term at the moment. We seem to be in a good pattern. Really, I'm just trying to cover more of the entire world in this case, because we have a pretty major typhoon over here. Typhoon Kanun. I'm going to say Kanun. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not good with pronouncing Eastern names. But if that is wrong, be sure to grill me in the comments. But that being said here, pretty major storm, about 120 knots. That's 138 miles an hour. That's pretty much a category 4 here at this point. So we're getting close to a super typhoon status here. And thankfully, however, this is going to stay away from land from the looks of it. Most of the tracks are kind of all over the place, though, so there's plenty of uncertainty still. But it seems like, for the most part, a majority of them have this curving back off to the north and west, and then eventually looping northeast, actually. So this is going to stay in the East China Sea, and we shouldn't expect too much to come of it. It's a pretty impressive looking storm as far as satellites concerned. Very well defined eye right here. The feeder bands look pretty impressive. It has that buzzsaw look that you would look for with a very well organized and even strengthening storm. We'll see if this strengthens further beyond this point, because as far as forecasting was concerned, this was the maximum level of strength expected for most of the models at the moment. But if we look at spaghetti models here, like I said, mostly nothing to really be concerned with as far as land is concerned in the near term. Down the line, though, maybe Japan, South Korea, we might have to look out for that. And then, of course, there's actually another little tropical system right here that's expected to kind of continue to fall apart. It may impact Bangladesh here and some of these other countries, may cause some flooding, but hopefully it continues to be on a weakening trend and move through pretty quick. There's really, like I said, really from this point, we expect a decreasing trend as far as strength is concerned with this typhoon here. So as of right now, I'm not really too worried about this getting much stronger. At least that's the expectation here. So some good news to be had there if it does hit land, but it will affect the weather one way or another across both Korea and Japan. So let's go ahead now and take a look at Tropical Storm Dora, which formed in the Eastern Pacific recently. This was Tropical Depression 5E, but this was when I was going to do the video last night, so it was I was expecting it to strengthen, but unfortunately, because I wasn't feeling well, I couldn't get up and do a video. But that being said, here's where Dora's going, out to sea. Not much of a problem there, of course, so good news to be had there, staying away from Mexico. The storm's really starting to get its act together. We do expect this to strengthen up to about a Category 2 hurricane, which would be about 110 mile per hour winds at maximum, just under the major hurricane level, which would be Category 3, which would be rounded up to 115 miles an hour, but it's really 111. But as far as the storm is concerned, it's a pretty small storm, but starting to look a lot better on satellite. We'll probably continue to see this trend as time goes on here. So that being said, we have a potential area of development over here in the Eastern Pacific, actually about 2 of them. So we'll go ahead and look at those. One of them is right in the coattails of where Dora will end up being, and then we have an additional system right here that could develop too. Both of these chances are pretty low right now. Right around 20 to 30% from what I saw. And then over towards the Atlantic, it's a pretty similar deal. We have this system here, however, does have a 50 to 60% chance of development, or 40 to 60% chance of development. But this also will not be affecting anyone immediately with the impacts such as rainfall. No landfall expected from this, basically. Same thing with this system here. If this makes it closer past, though, we could see a little bit of an effect here, maybe from rip currents and increased surf, but I don't know if it'll even strengthen enough to that point to where it will. One thing that's working against both of these systems is the wind shear that's going to be developing across these regions. When I look at this, I don't see any chance of how these two will develop, because there's some really strong wind shear at multiple levels of the atmosphere. Precisely what you wouldn't want as far as tropical development is concerned. There are a couple pockets right here that I would watch over towards the Atlantic. Maybe if a storm were to come off of West Africa, we may have to watch that. But even then, there's still a decent bit of directional shear here. And then towards this corridor in the Caribbean, the wind shear has lightened up a bit. However, I still think that nothing is really likely to form at this time. There's no real indicators that anything will try to develop. And before we know it, there will be new pockets of wind shear starting to develop here. So this little short window will close off pretty quick from the looks of it. So as a whole here, looks like mercifully Gulf of Mexico might get cut off by this little area of wind shear here, and if so, this could keep tropical development at bay. There's still a couple pockets right here where the wind shear is light, and this blocking high here off to the north of the Caribbean here towards Bermuda, or the Bermuda high, maybe our protector here. If something does develop in the right spot, particularly I would think right around here, maybe we could see something start to actually get pushed more so into the Gulf here. This is a bad arrow I'm drawing. But as a whole here, it looks like for the most part we're safe as far as tropical development is concerned. Of course, we know that things tend to change quickly, especially out towards the tropics, so take that with a grain of salt. As far as the look on the vorticity as a whole here, like I said, there's a chance of different pieces of energy flaring up here across the Atlantic, but for the most part, I wouldn't expect anything major to come of it. There is a small chance that something could develop here, but really this is more or less hearsay, of course, because we're starting to get further and further along into the model run. We're getting close to 200 hours out. So, like I said, have to take it with a grain of salt. If anything gets caught in the Bermuda high, it's going to get pretty much centrifuged out into the heart of the Atlantic here, where there's not too many people in the way here. Here's this tiny little speck here is Bermuda. We have the Azores. We have the Cabo Verdes here. So right around the center, pretty much nothing. So as we continue to go forward here, like I said, nothing really catching my eye here for sure. So it's a reassuring sign. And then on top of that, even when you look at the ensemble members here, this can show the probability of a storm developing. Pretty much going to be a unimpressive model run here. If anything, I see a lot more high pressure dominating here. But like I said, we all know that this can change very quickly. So like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Towards the end of this, it's interesting to see these runs come in, but this is pretty typical for the end of a model run. So like I said, this could probably change within the course of the next week, which is probably around the time we would do the next tropical outlook here. So that's what we're looking like over the Atlantic. Pacific, it's a pretty similar deal. We'll go back to wind shear here. It's going to be a little bit more active over there from the looks of it. Oops, that's the Western Pacific. And of course, with the wind shear being a little bit lighter in this region, it's a little bit more ideal for storm development. So here's our current storm systems over here. I can't even remember the name anymore. But this would be, if I remember correctly, this would be Dora. Okay, my brain isn't working fully. I'm not still awake. I'm still not awake. I can't even speak properly. But here's Dora, and here's a couple other potential systems that could develop. But beyond that, like I said, wind shear is pretty light around here, so plenty of opportunity for development across this region. But it looks like everything is going to stay away from land. We do have to watch out towards Hawaii, of course, because as we look down on this, and I didn't make mention of it, right here towards this, where this little X is, there's a little area of development. Will it make it out that far to Hawaii? It's still a big question there. But we'll keep an eye on it just in case. But when we look towards the Eastern Pacific here, we'll rewind it back. Of course, a lot more ensemble members having more confidence in low pressure systems developing. And like I said, with the wind shear being as light as it is over here, we could probably see at least a few more name storms within the next couple weeks possibly. Eastern Pacific tends to be pretty active during this time of year, of course, so it's no real surprises there. Just thankfully, everything looks like it's going to be staying away from land. But that being said here, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button, decimate that subscribe button, and obliterate that share button. If you're new, of course, hit that subscribe button and make sure you get that bell on. But this has been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care and have a nice day.